So now we have a panel that will be moderated by the one and only Elle Hill. Today I didn't call her Ellen, so it was Elle Hill, because there is an H in your family name, so Elle Hill Helen. That's why I get it wrong all the time. So you know Elle from the previous presentation. She's an entrepreneur, a very successful entrepreneur in the jewelry industry. Her company helps businesses grow and become more solid in their thing, and she has been in the industry for many, many years, quite experienced, a great speaker, as you saw yesterday. So Elle, please come to the stage and you can introduce the other members of the panel. I thank you. You did very well. Really, you are a very good speaker. Really, yeah.
I'm on number one. Okay, great. Nice to see you all again today. I'm very excited about the panel that I'm about to introduce. And I would love to just take a moment and open my book so that I make sure that I can say all of the names absolutely correctly. First, you had the luxury and the pleasure of listening to Annie Doresca speaking yesterday about the Black and Jewelry Coalition, and I would like to invite her to the stage. Annie. And I am going to channel Annie because she's not coming to the stage, so we will move to Ruth Benjamin Thomas, who is the CEO of the Black Opal Direct from Australia and is also championing ICA's initiative, Gem Women. Please join me on the stage. Oh, thank God. I could talk for all of them, but it wouldn't be as diverse or interesting. And also Yogita Vichare, Director of Corporate Strategy for Fura. Please join me. Thank you. And finally, I think we all were really touched and moved this morning when we had the pleasure and the luxury of hearing Mimo talk about all that they've achieved. Would you please join us on the stage now, Mimo? Here she is. And Annie, fantastic. Join us on the stage, my dears. Mimo of Mimo Gem Traders, and Annie Doresca, CFO of Jewelers of America and a founder of Black and Jewelry Coalition. We're all here to talk about the impact that initiating diversity into the gemstone industry can give us. And what I would like to do is first have each of these wonderful business people talk to us about their individual experiences and what they see as the importance of diversity in the gemstone industry specifically and the impact that it could have. So I'm going to first turn the floor to Annie Doresca. And ask you just to speak for a moment. We had the luxury of hearing her yesterday. And Annie is on number one.
Good morning, everyone. Can you all hear me okay?
So we had the luxury of listening to you yesterday talk about the Black and Jewelry Coalition and all that it's doing across jewelry, gemstones, and diamonds. And so I wanted to get your take now. We've also been 2 days here at the ICA. The impact of the Black and Jewelry Coalition on the colored gemstone industry. How do you see that?
Sure. So, quick introduction for those of you that did not get to hear me speak. My name is Annie Doresca. I'm the Chief Financial Officer at Jewelers of America. I'm also the co-founder and board president of Black and Jewelry Coalition. Our goal is to enhance the promotion of Black professionals in the gem, jewelry, and watch industry. And so I feel that definitely for BIJC, which is what we call it, there's opportunities for our designers to be exposed more so to gemstones, opportunity to even be educated about the gemstones. A lot of time, designers don't have the education side. They work with a lot of the gemstones, but meeting so many people here and hearing about the different aspects from mining and even on the supplier side, that's one. We have limited resources. I think that there's an opportunity for diversity to be shared because resources are extremely limited in our community, the Black community I'll speak, and so there's an opportunity there for there to be mentorship and exposure for Black designers and so forth. I think that being here, everyone's been so welcoming, and I think that's the beautiful part about this jewelry industry. It's changed thus far, and there's more opportunities for change to happen. So.
It's fantastic, thank you. Thank you for sharing that insight. Next, I'd like to give Yogita the floor, who has prepared something to share with you all. Please.
I wasn't expecting to be second. I thought it is yesterday's format, so I'll be given 10 minutes and expected to come up with some slides. So here I am with a few slides. Our industry, we are the flag bearers of diversity. What a fantastic product that we give to the world. It has an inherent diversity. I would like to talk about 3 scenarios today. Scenario 1, where we have a box with certain elements in it. This could be market players or our products. What happens next is, when you want to accommodate some more market players or some more product, you displace a few. To put it into perspective, if British Parliament has 35% women MPs, and today they have 65% men MPs, if they came up with a law that 50% of the quota will be reserved for women, 15% of the men MPs will be displaced. So what is the recourse that men MPs have? They have to accept the situation, either happily or unhappily. That's one diversity scenario. Scenario 2, again we have a box full of market players or full of products. Some new entrants come in the market, but this time the situation is different. We open a new box and put the existing players into that box. And this is how we create a room for diversity by expanding our horizons, by creating markets or by creating more products in the industry. Let me put this in perspective. If feng shui from China or major players in feng shui in China decides to complement their jewelry with other gemstones, maybe Fura's Mozambican rubies, they will set new trends and they will offer more choice to the Chinese consumers. Of course, I don't know whether we have Mr. Wong in the room, but this is not an attempt to do business solicitation. But here, some of the majors can take some actions to accommodate diversity in the pre-existing markets. Scenario number 3, where we have a box. It's not yet full. It has enough space. So when you have new entrants in the market, you accommodate them easily. But somewhere in the back of the mind, there is a fear of displacement. And what I believe is, we need here the attitude shift. And this is true for most of the color gemstones sector today. I love this pictorial representation because it shows what we have created for the world today as a color gemstones industry. Diamond has done it for them, so it's about 14 billion market share. In 2017, jade was around 6 billion, but I heard yesterday it is 8 billion, so it is expanding. And there we are, emeralds, rubies, and sapphire, 1.5 to 2.5 billion. We have other color gemstones having certain share in the market. That means there is enough space for everybody. Today, our population between 15 to 65 age group is around 5.5 billion. It's a fantastic, amazing, big market. And we all can coexist with harmony in this market space. Now I would like to take this topic to the specifics, or I would like to see this topic from the lens of a miner. Our geographical location is very, very important. We are in Colombia, we are in UAE, we are in Mozambique, we are in Madagascar, and we are in Australia. What it poses for us is super diverse geopolitical conditions and completely distinct cultures. I would like to talk about 3 specific paradigms here: women versus men, diversity when it comes to local versus expats, and very controversial topic at times in our industry, which is artisanal miners versus corporate miners. This is the story behind Fura's all-female wash plan. When we entered Colombia in late 2018, there were no women, or they were not welcome on the mining scene because they were considered as bad omen or bad luck for the mining industry. We spoke to the women, and they were extremely eager to be part of this industry. And for us, it is a population which is skilled, which is local, and which is extremely eager to make a change. So what we did here is we came up with the concept of all-female wash plan. And today, we still have a significant women population in our state-of-the-art wash plant, which looked like very primitive then when we started. But then what it signifies is a cultural transformation for Colombian mining industry. And there was no surprise that this initiative was captured by Bloomberg. It was captured by Robb Report. And that is where we broke down the barriers in the industry and included diversity in the possible way in our mining operation, which has just began. I would like to address the second issue, expat versus locals. We see this quite often as the miners. So there are conflicting needs. Let me talk about my business model. As I said yesterday, we take underperforming, undervalued, and undercapitalized assets, and we build capacity. So basically, we are trying to turn around the businesses where something is broken down. When we pump that much of capital in the business, we are going to bring expertise. It comes in-house. We get expertise from a global platform, but what we try to do is we just change the entire paradigm for that particular business. So we are going to have imported skills. But at the same time, we have to balance that local skill that is available in the mine will not feel insecurity, or they should not feel displaced. So what happens in short term? Sense of insecurity gets created for the locals because they have a fear of displacement. Adopting to the new ways of doing things or new ways of thinking is not easy. But at the same time, the expat community which comes on the scene, they also face the fear of non-acceptance and non-execution from the local employees. So it is not, of course, a comfortable situation for anybody. As a mining company, what we can do to promote diversity or inclusion is, first of all, we need to break the language barriers. Whosoever joins our Colombian operation must go through a Spanish-speaking course. Small initiative, but it makes a huge impact. We try to promote cultural exchanges among our employees. We build skill transfer. And what we do is we get local participation in mid and senior level operational management. This is quite important because as a foreign company, when you come and acquire an operation, first thing what we do is we try to replace the decision-making body. Of course, it is in our business interest because we are coming there to build a business. But then this should be a short-term phenomena. Over a long-term period, we want to have local people coming up and filling in those positions with a lot of skills, a lot of authority, and a lot of interest in the business. So what are we achieving in the long term? Overall skills enhancement, culture that tolerates our difference, and a change agent which revives the entire economy. So if you see towns of Otanche or San Pablo de Barber municipalities now, and a few years ago before we came there, it's a complete shift in the way people are living there. There is a change in the lifestyles, there is a change in the shop scene or restaurant scenes that we see in our communities. So we are a company which pumps in around $15 million a year in our Colombian operation. Most of our money goes in paying the salaries. It creates an economy. So for me, it's not the $15 million, but here we are talking about a $50 million economy which we are building in a community which has 10,000 members in it. So it's a considerable impact. My last topic, but not the least, is artisanal miners versus corporate miners. Let us see how EU defines artisanal miners or small-scale miners. Artisanal and small-scale mining refers to mining by individuals, groups, families, or corporates with minimal or no mechanization. Also, when we think about artisanal mining in the context of Africa, I would like to call it subsistence mining. Mining done to support oneself at minimum levels with basic subsistence, i.e. food, shelter, and clothing. There is no intent to create market, and probably no resources to create market. I like to take this opportunity to talk about this issue because very loosely we use the term artisanal miners and illegal miners. I heard many people saying that there is a very fine line between artisanal miners and illegal miners, but it is not true. By definition, these are two different species altogether. Artisanal miners are miners who are mining for their livelihood, who are mining in their own lands, whereas illegal miners who could be present in artisanal mining concessions or who could be present in corporate mining concessions. With that, let's see what change we have brought together with our community of artisanal miners. So in Australia, we are working with our artisanal miners associations quite closely when it comes to donation camp. We have been contributing to laboratories we have donated some of the polishing machines so that my Australian community can take this skill further and be independent in terms of the business that they are doing there. Australian community supports the tourism business in Australia. And the last but not the least, we have also created mining interest by adding artisanal miners by providing the product for fossicking business that artisanal miners in Australia are doing. So today we are the single largest sapphire producing mine in the world. What does it mean for ASM in Australia? The product is getting recognition on the global platform. They see the price upliftment for their product. And we are creating an advancement for the local economy. So it's quite a nice relationships when we get our community members coming up to us and asking us that how did your auction do? And what sort of prices you got in your auctions? Of course, we don't give the prices, but we definitely give the broad range because it's a community which is thriving together. What it brings for us, it gives us that feedback loop. It gives us a harmonious ecosystem where both of us thriving and living together. And for both of us, whether it is artisanal miner or us as a corporate miner, it gives us immense pride to promote this product on the global platform. A few pictures from Colombia, how we are impacting our communities. A lot of initiatives we are taking in Colombia, may it be a Fura Academy, supporting more than 2,000 community members to give them vocational training. May it be a COVID relief program where we have given out 7,000 food packages to our 7,000 community members and stood with them during the tough times. So here again, we are try to coexist in a harmonious way. Last but not the least, our Mozambican operations. We have taken up a few initiatives in Mozambique. We have provided clean water supply. We have helped them to come up with a scientific way of doing agricultural activities. We help the community to learn how to build the better houses, brick houses, and we have built a school. But you know what? What has community given us back? A diversity hero. If you can see this woman, she joined her 2 children in the school. She said, I never got an opportunity to do a formal education. So today we have 5 women who are joining their children in this school, and they are our true diversity heroes. Thank you.
Thank you so much for sharing all of that and the photographs as well. I wonder if you could talk to us a little bit about the different challenges because you're working in so many different cultures, how you approach them, whether you have a systematic plan that you have to modify, or how it impacts the way you address each different location.
In my presentation, I kind of touched upon how we go about approaching diversity in the different locations. I consider ourselves lucky to be operating in such a different geopolitical situations. Definitely, it's not easy. It poses its own challenges for us whenever we operate in such different geographies. But our approaches we have a top-to-down commitment when it comes to diversity. We build our strategy. I'm director strategy for Fura. So we basically built a strategy. We have a buy-in from our senior management in our office in UAE. But when it comes to our operations, we execute it along with our teams on ground.
So are you
Yeah, please.
bringing the people in each of the different locations to participate in the strategy as you create it, or is it something that you get the buy-in from management and then bring it out?
That's a good question. I mean, without the buy-in from management, all these initiatives will be only a tick box approach. So the first step is we get the buy-in from the management, we decide our umbrella strategy, but we cannot execute a strategy if we do not have a buy-in from the people who are on ground. I wish I could show you some of our CSR guys. I call them our flag bearers in each of the operations who execute the strategy. We have the feedback loop, and we work together on our execution plans. It does not work that way that my management sitting in UAE thinks that this will work or knows this will work in Colombia. We work quite closely with the people there, and then we implement our strategies.
I have many more questions for you, but
Yeah, sure.
we'll move to Ruth for the moment, and we'll go back to questions at the end. I know you have something to share with us.
Good morning, everyone. I'd like to begin my short little presentation as I would in Australia. I'm going to read it because I'm a little bit nervous. We acknowledge the traditional owners of this land, specifically the Yugambeh people on whose land we live, and the Gamilaroi and Yuwirlaway people on whose land Opal is found. We celebrate their enduring connections to country, knowledge, and stories. We pay our respect to elders past, present, and emerging. This acknowledgement of country is a simple recognition of the ancient culture that reminds us all of our humanity. I find that when we start meetings like this, the conversation is usually more respectful, more thoughtful, and more productive. It also serves as a subtle way to hold space and to say to everyone, I see you. Lightning Ridge, Australia is home to the black opal, but is not a traditional living place for the Gamilaroi or Yuwirlaway. However, they are an integral part of the mining, the cutting, and the buying and selling process of the opal community. In a town of 55 nationalities, the community is diverse as it gets. This is represented by the numbers of Australians exporting opals across the world. The majority are Indigenous, first and second generation migrants, and almost 50% of these businesses are women-owned or co-owned. So in our corner of the world, this type of diversity of culture and of gender is pretty well accepted. My first encounter with ICA was back in 2001 for the Congress in Sydney. For those of you that were there, I think you'll remember it was a pretty good party, perhaps along the lines of what happened last night, so I hear. But what you won't remember, perhaps, is what it might have been like for a 20-something who was new to the business. I remember feeling like a complete fish out of water. There were no women like me, and very few women at the conference at all, unless they were there as spouses. Everyone seemed to know each other, and because my husband and I were so young, we felt removed and disengaged from the event most of the time. There was this feeling of arriving late to a party and not knowing the rules or the people that never left me. Fast forward 15 years, and the ICA Congress I attended in Bangkok in 2019 was nothing like the first. I was no longer young, and obviously I knew a great deal more people. It was at this conference, talking to very many women who were active in the trade, that I realised that my experience was not an isolated one. It had been nothing to do with my youth or even my gender, but rather that because many of us see each other on the trade show circuit, there was a familiarity and a camaraderie that is very difficult to break into if your business does not operate in the same manner. I discovered a great desire from all the women I met for a space to communicate and support each other throughout the year, not just at these events. And from there, a seed was planted. We obviously had the thing that we won't mention that delayed things, but last year the board members, Miriam, Pearl, and Shahina, who are not here, and myself began talking again about this project. I looked at the ICA member numbers and realised that less than 10% of ICA membership was female, and this is woefully low considering the numbers of women within our industry. We felt that we could do more, that we needed to be more than just friendly at congresses and trade shows. We wanted to see women of all ages and nationalities and different sectors of the community experience and who have different experiences to join us and in turn be supported and support other members at all times throughout the year. So after this forced delay of COVID, ICA Gem Women held its first meeting in Tucson this year. You can see by the image up on the screen that it was an informal get-together of 15 women, and they were too shy, but there were 5 men, from 9 different countries. It was an amazing gathering that was spontaneous in its feelings of wanting to share and communicate with each other. What this loose group becomes and how it serves women is yet to be revealed. That's up to us as members of ICA. But what I do know is that there are some amazing, smart and wise women within this group who are on board, like my fellow panel members here, as well as strong allies within the ICA. Here in Dubai, I've shared and heard many women. Those that are new have made comment on the number of women present and how welcome they have felt. I am really, really gladdened to hear this. This is exactly how we make space to enable members, as well as the ICA organisation, to grow and thrive, as Yogita showed us in her 3 boxes scenario. Currently, I want to invite all the women here to connect on the online portal and to keep an eye out for the meetups, both in person at trade shows and online throughout the year. And if you're not a member, please do consider becoming one. I'm very happy to help you out with that. So I really look forward to the future of what the coloured gemstone industry looks like, with a vigorous and the supported contributions from all women as well as men. Together, that we can ensure the thriving longevity of our very, very unique and wonderful industry. Thank you.
Thank you so much. I think it's fantastic that Gem Women has now officially kicked off. And I'm wondering, what are the hopes that you have now? You've had the first meeting with everybody in person, which is such a luxury. What are your hopes after having had that interaction and the conversation of the way it will positively impact the gemstone business and the individual businesses that are participating?
I think what we saw to begin with was a coming together and networking where we could actually talk about our businesses, share with each other, and like why are we all here is to actually do some business together. I think that initially working with the members, providing that space to share and communicate and support each other's businesses is so important. From there, I know Miriam has some really great ideas of how we can integrate this support of women to women beyond the ICA membership that are coming through, whether they're in America through Annie's Black in Jewelry Coalition, or whether they're in Africa where they're starting out just learning about the trade and how it needs and how they can be a part of that. So I really do believe that there are lots of ways that this can grow, and it's really up to the women. For me, I feel like my role is to provide space for that conversation to happen, not decide what to do.
Right. Excellent, excellent point. That it's really those of us in the room who can join in and participate in what the impact could be created, what impact could be created. Thank you so much.
Thanks.
Now, I would love to ask a question of you, Mimo, and I'd like you to share with us a little bit about who you are and what you see as the future of the impact that can be created on our gemstone industry by the inclusion and diversity.
Thank you so much. It's very difficult for me to introduce myself or to tell who I am, but I am wonderfully and fearfully made. I have many titles, but for now, allow me to share a little video of who I am. Jumbo, this is Mimo, the woman Mimo, the woman behind this mining project. This is Mimo, the founder of Mimo Gem Traders and the director of the Mimo Gem Traders and Mining. I feel very honored to do what I'm doing right now because I love to do mining. We are doing it here in Kabanga, which is in Savo East, the place where Savarite is born, the place where Savarite is made. Savarite is a green stones, as you can see, the ones I'm wearing, while everybody else in the world is looking for it. I love green. Stones is what I love. Stones is what I do. And this is where I do from. I am so happy because I love my job. My job is stone, and my stone is Savarite. This is what we are doing right here. And this is why it pushes me to come and seek for it, and look for it, and dig for it, and take it to my fellow friends and dealers all across the board. This is Mimo, Mimo Gem Mining.
So thank you each for giving us a short introduction to who you are and what you've been doing and what diversity and inclusion means to you and your particular businesses. Now I'd like to give you each a few questions as I was considering, what we've been discussing. And I'd love to start with you, Annie, because I think you gave a great presentation yesterday about the Black and Jewelry Coalition. And I think, Yogita, you really pointed out that there are all sorts of aspects of diversity, not unlike sustainability has so many different things that we're attempting to sustain. Diversity has to do with gender, it has to do with sexuality, it has to do with culture, it has to do with size of business, artisanal, corporate mining. So Annie, first, I have to ask the basic and broad question. Is our industry ready for diversity?
I think coming to this Congress, it being my first one, I definitely feel like our industry is ready for diversity. The challenge is always how we go about diversity and the best practices to incorporate it. But we are diverse already. It's more about engaging in partnerships so that there's more exposure and opportunities. As Ruth just mentioned, I actually didn't know about the ICA Gem Women, so that's great. That's a great start. Those type of developments already show that we're ready for diversity, the engagement, the partnerships that we can develop, whether it's through this Congress or different opportunities that we have. We're ready for it. I just always make sure that people understand when you're in a room and you don't feel welcome, that's a challenging thing. I remember myself when I joined the industry 15 years ago, I felt like the only one in the room for quite some time. I still feel that, but it's changed already, and I feel that now people are ready for the conversation. So that's how I know that we're ready, because we're actually sitting here having a conversation. So we're definitely ready.
But can I go even broader and go, why? Why do we have to work so hard at creating diversity? I think Mark stood on the boat last night and said, look at this family. We have every color, we have women, we have men. Why do we need to focus on this still?
It goes back to sometimes you're in that room and you don't want to feel isolated. It's important to feel that you have someone similar to you based on the different areas of diversity, like we said, race, gender. That's important. And also, it's a conversation that our generation may not be accustomed to, but the incoming generation is asking for demographic change. We have a younger generation that's looking for underrepresented representation, and so it is important.
But just because they're looking for it, does it mean we need it? Does it mean we will benefit from it?
Diversity always is beneficial from a creativity standpoint, innovation standpoint. You can only think based on what you know. When you have different people in the room that think differently, that creates opportunities, and that's the reason.
And with that, I'd like to turn to you, Mimo, because we're all from different areas of the world as well. And our perceptions and our desires for diversity are different based on what we've experienced in our corner of the world. Mimo, where you stand, what do you see as, can you talk to us a little bit about your desires for diversity and what you think it will bring?
That's a good one. My desire is to see the future of the colored gemstones. Why do I say this? Because I know the future of the colored gemstone is with a woman. The woman being Mama Africa. The woman being the earth. Why Mama Africa? Because she's the one who gave birth to the gemstones which we all admire and which I would say have gathered everybody from all different places, background, to be where we are today. So for me, looking at it like that, I would think despite our differences, despite our colors, despite where we are coming from, my main thing will be the future of the colored gemstone.
And Ruth, I'll turn it over to you for a moment because you're at the opposite. You're over in Australia. What is the situation when you are on the ground there, and what are the challenges? How much inclusivity are you seeing now, and what different buckets of diversity or inclusivity are kind of already making good progress and which ones aren't?
It's a really good question. I think overall, you know, I live in a very developed, a very wealthy, a very comfortable country. We of course have still a very, very long way to go. From an industry point of view, we have an enormous amount of women participating at every level. I am incredibly lucky that I can count on both hands all the women in my industry who I could pick up the phone to and talk to at any time, which is wonderful. What we are seeing, however, is that for the women, we are so busy running our businesses, our families, looking after people in our lives and looking after our businesses, that we have a lack of women in leadership roles at the higher level. And that is where I really think that we can do better on, is to elevate the women, you know, as the end consumers of many of the beautiful things that we all create. I really feel that there needs to be more women in those leadership roles, having a voice. whether it be women like myself or women of colour, Indigenous women. I think they all have a role to play. The mining communities themselves, there was a photo I put up a few years ago from a mining congress in Australia, and it was a group of women miners from all the opal fields in Australia. Mighty, amazing women. So I know that from an artisanal miner point of view, we're very, very well represented. I just want to make sure that that flows throughout the whole community.
And I think you've led me very neatly to Yogita, who is in the most senior of management positions at Fura. How do you see that comparing to the various locations that you guys have? And what do you think it changes that you sit in this role in your company?
Elle, I heard the views. My fellow participants feel that we are ready. We are making a change. But when we sit in the mining locations and when we see the ground reality, I'm shy to believe that we are ready. Because today, when we started our operations in Colombia, the first question came to our mind, do we have a washroom facility, a separate washroom facility for women or not? So here we are struggling with even the basic question, basic facilities for women out there who are trying to participate in our industry. So I think it's a really long way to go. Secondly, if you're talking about women leadership, definitely that's something we are doing conscious efforts as an industry, not just our industry, but across the globe in all the industries, to get more representation of women in the senior roles. And we can make decisions for ourselves and for other women as well as for the businesses. But I think, again, we need to create that infrastructure for the next generation by providing the training, by providing those resources for the next generation to come up and be ready to take that senior roles or senior positions. To give you an example, those who have come to our grading facility in Sharjah, they would have seen a lot of men sitting there and trying to grade our product. We as a management team, we sit there, but we feel bad that while my mining operations are doing considerably better, I'm saying considerably better, not extremely good, still where we sit, we cannot, or we're still working on getting the women representation in the grading sector or grading area, because it's quite a specialized skill. It needs a lot of experience, it needs a lot of training, and the people who are working with us come from a particular part of the world. They have that skill set. And unfortunately, it is a male-dominated trade or male-dominated skill. So we need to make a conscious effort to get more women to learn that skill. So I think this needs to be applied in all the different areas of our industry, and we need to make conscious efforts.
I think that's an excellent point. Yesterday, I had the luxury of speaking with Annie about how you're now going into high schools in order to promote jewelry to Black youth, because we can't hire or train people in 5 minutes, and we can't hire people out there to create diversity who don't have the skill sets. So we all agree that we read the statistics, we heard some of the statistics yesterday about how diversity yields higher margins, yields higher revenues, yields more creative solutions. The should we is proven and has been shared with us in those statistics yesterday, but how do we go about it? And any one of you can certainly jump in on this, but I start with Annie, because you mentioned to me, what do we do as an industry to invest in the creation of people from diverse backgrounds, races, religions, sexualities, and genders that are skilled enough to join and make those numbers more even?
Great question. I am passionate about this area because the more I learn about the industry, people have always mentioned that, it's a dying art. We've heard that throughout a few presentations. And so what BIJC is actually currently doing, providing the funding, goes through, and it looks like it will. We've actually partnered with 2 schools, one in Brooklyn called the STEAM Brooklyn Center, where they have bench programs, but we're going to add another bench program for students to actually start learning how to make jewelry. They've had a few programs start there already, but we want that to be more inclusive, and so we're partnering with them to do that. I think in Long Island, which is where I'm from, we're doing some CAD design courses there that we're trying to implement within the high schools as well. We're talking with another program in Alabama to see if we can have students there. So the more we invest in getting these access to high school students for them to even realize this is an industry. Students don't realize that the jewelry industry has opportunities, whether it's finance, marketing, designing jewelry. These are all different opportunities in our industry. So the more that we filter ourselves into the high schools across all areas, the more that this will be a sustainable industry. I think that's very important.
And my 2 cents, organizations like ICA are so important because of the support they're giving to so many positive things like we saw you speak about this morning, Mimo. In your business, what do you see as the inclusivity and diversity that is still needed? You operate in a world that's very fresh to me, and even you said this morning, this is the only place that you really meet with everyone. Not many come to you. So can you bring us to you a little bit in the description of what is the environment like at Mimo Gems, and what is the diversity that is there now, and what do you hope to see in the future?
That's a very good one, but what right now we are doing so that we can come to fill the gap which is in this industry, I would say, is our challenge. One of the challenges which we are facing or which we face is being accepted. It is very sad to say that whenever you are walking into this, when we go for the gem shows or when you come to congresses like this, somebody or some people will look down on you because of the color of your skin or because of gender. This is such something which is not very nice, but we have gone through this quite a lot. But I thank God for being in ICA. That's when I was starting, I introduced myself, that this is my family and it has grown me to be what I am. I have not faced such, I would say, challenges as such, but I have seen my brothers and my sisters, especially from the continent. But what we have done right now, as I have been given a new name of Mama, have come up with a new organization for Africans, so we can be in a position where we can have our own pavilions. And I thank God for ICA because ICA has accepted us. We are members of that. It is called African Association and African Color Gemstone Association. So which we are going to be all the suppliers from the continent of Africa. We are joined together. The last Tucson, we had our very first meeting, dinner meeting with all my brothers and my sisters. Everybody who comes to Tucson to sell gemstones, everybody who goes to Thailand to sell gemstones, everybody who goes to Hong Kong, and everybody who goes to Europe in Idaho-Bash, China, and all these places, Basel. The sons and daughters of Africa have come together to have an organization like this with the help of ICA, together with the Gem Women for ICA. We have decided to come together so that we can be able to be more useful in the trade and more we can enjoy ourselves, the products which we bring, the sales which we make. We want those sales to benefit us and to benefit also the people back home. This way we are able to take back to the community, back at home in Mama Africa, as I kept saying, because we are the only ones who knows where this shoe hurts us more.
So I'm going to ask this question of you, and then I'm going to bring the same question to you, Yogita, because I think we've got quite a luxury on this stage. First of all, it's anomalous. We have 100% women on this stage. I happen to have a business of 100% women in business management consulting. And you have talked now about feeling included in the industry as a black woman and a black business person. I want to ask about the culture where you live, Mimo, and I'm going to bring this question to you too. Because what comes first? The culture and what is expected of women versus men in that culture and what is anomalous there? Or the industry leading and saying, you can do this too? How do you lead by example but honor the cultural norms and the preferences of the women on the ground? So I said a lot. Let me just simplify it to a question. Where you are working and where you are from, what are the cultural norms for women in business?
The culture for me, from where I come from, is very rich. The culture for me being a woman is very rich. We don't have a problem with women being leaders. Why? Because we don't have problems with our mothers. The first miners were mothers. The people who brought forth to us are our mothers. So mothers, women are so much honored. It's just that there's a term, a foreign term. It is foreign to us in our culture, which comes and gives us something else different. I don't, and we do not believe that a woman can work better than a man. So in our culture, we work both together. And that way, we have a father and we have a mother in the culture. In my place, like in my mining area, I don't have any woman working for me. But all of them, they are men. But I have more women now because of their wives, their children. So it's a family. So that's our culture and it's our community. We work together.
It is very different because it is your life. It is the whole individual. It is the family, surviving and working. So Yogita, if I turn it over to you, because you also have a business that operates in various regions, how would you answer the same question?
That's actually a very good question, Elle. For me, culture is everything. It's a foundation of my business. I feel sad today to say that I would have to work on gender parity. I would like to have a corporate culture where the women will be participating in the business at the same level, in the same proportion or in the same volume as their main counterparts. I would like to see a culture in our mining operations where we have people from the different nationalities coming in and joining without the nationality biases. So basically, first you develop a culture and then you work on it to get it down to your business.
So first I didn't hear the
Yeah. First you conceptualize the culture. That's the foundation of your business. And then you take the actions to make sure that you're taking steps to meet your definition of culture.
Got it. Okay. Thank you very much. And I'm going to turn over to you, Ruth, for a moment, just to ask a little bit about what we have to do in order to make diversity work once it's introduced. And Annie, you know I'm coming to you next with this one, because we had a wonderful conversation with Jeffrey, I believe, yesterday, who was talking about just hiring a black man and putting in your shop is not going to make anyone successful or not going to add to the revenue unless we consider all of the things that need to be in place for that person to thrive and for the business to thrive as a benefit. So I'm coming to you with that. And Ruth, I'm asking you, in Australia, what is the current situation and the current culture of what is dominant and what would you like to see more of? I mean, we spoke about women because you're working with that, but obviously there are lots of ranges of diversity that I'd love you to give us a bit of color about.
I think in Australia, it is being a very, very young country. We certainly are diverse in our cultural backgrounds, and obviously the gender division is fairly even within workplaces these days. I think from my own experience, it's about honouring the backgrounds that people come from, having sensitivity to that, but also talking about it. I think you can't pretend that everything is equal and hunky-dory when in reality your experience is your experience, but somebody, a person of colour, a woman of colour might have had a completely different experience in that same place. So for me, it's more about making space, honouring the differences, and being sensitive when there are challenges that arise. And it goes back to, I think, what you were talking yesterday, is you need to clearly communicate. And it's communicate, communicate, communicate. Keep talking. Keep the lines of communication open. We're all human. None of us are perfect. And we're just trying our best. And if you believe that people are doing the best that they can, I think there's an approach and a feeling of kindness that will mean that you can get through it.
I agree with you, and I don't think perfection is the goal, and I don't think 50-50 is the goal, 50% male, 50% female, 50% black, 50% white. I think it is making sure that we as business owners can avail ourselves of all the skills that are out there in the world, whether it is a man or a woman, whether it's a black person or a white person, whether it is someone from a different culture or our own. So Annie, I come to you, and I'm just going to switch gears for a sec, because I'd love this to be the last question before we open up to the floor, which is, how will diversity, when you look into your magic ball, and you have such great statistics and analysis that you shared with us yesterday, but how do you anticipate an openness and an effort towards diversity and inclusion will impact the business of Color Gemstones?
Gave me the hard last question.
I gave you the hard one.
Well, I'll sidetrack. I wanted to just add on to what Ruth just said. I mentioned power evokes change. I truly believe that you have to have buy-in on the leadership level. Without having the buy-in from the leadership level, that will create even more barriers, so that's most important. And in terms of, I'm in the industry from a finance perspective, which is different, but as I hear and speak to people about the gemstone industry, the jewelry industry specifically with miners and all different artisanal mining, I think what's important is partnership and allyship. It's really about creating partnership and allies within the industry. It has changed. When we talk about the type of vendors that you have, there's also vendor diversity. Maybe taking a look at your vendors and saying, hey, do we have diversity in the type of vendors that we're buying from? That's important as well, making that change there.
Thank you, ladies, so much for answering the questions that I didn't share with you in advance, so that we could really just hear what the experience is in such a variety of backgrounds and locations and skill sets. Is there anyone in the audience who would like to ask a question of any of the ladies on the stage? We did a good job thoroughly informing you, I guess. So thank you very much, and please thank all of these ladies who I've had the luxury of speaking with.
I'm the bad guy. I'm the bad guy here.